So many people buy the wrong camera because they don't honestly answer these 3 questions. And if you want to save yourself some money, save yourself some time, and prevent yourself from buying that wrong camera, this video is for you. But what is the difference between an APS-C and full frame camera? Let's start there. So when you take a look at these 2 lenses, does anything odd or obvious stand out to you? APS-C lenses are usually smaller, compact, and lighter, making them great for vlogging and run and gun photography and videography. Basically anything where size doesn't quite matter. And since APS-C sensors are overall smaller in size, that means the actual lenses, the glass itself, can be smaller too, which makes these not only compact, but also more affordable to produce and more cost effective too. While it's not a complete rule when it comes down to full frame versus APS-C, we typically find more APS-C kits to be more cost effective overall when it comes to, the actual bodies as well as the lenses you can get for them. And oftentimes you can actually get 2, maybe 3 of APS-C lenses for 1 full frame lens. So what about performance? There has to be some sort of difference between like an APS-C body and a full frame one, right? Well, not quite. It's a little bit more complicated than that. With many modern cameras, quality can be impacted on whether you have an APS-C or a full frame body. But with most modern APS-C bodies, the problem isn't the actual quality that this can produce, it's more so the conditions of your environment. If you have perfect lighting, a modern APS-C and a modern full frame camera will be nearly identical when it comes to quality, whether you're doing photo or video. But when the lighting isn't ideal is when full frame kits tend to flex their muscles a little bit more. Since they have larger sensors, more light can actually enter that sensor, which gives you better overall low light performance compared to like an APS-C sensor. Now the last big difference is a functional one. So with an APS-C sensor, you need to account for what they call a crop factor. For example, on the A6600 right here and other Sony mirrorless cameras, the crop factor is 1.5 times. So if you take this Sigma 30mm right here that we have, this is an APS-C lens. It's a 30mm 1.4. This is actually equivalent to what a full frame 45mm f2.1 would look like. So now that you know the difference between APS-C and full frame cameras, let's talk about how you can make sure that you're buying the right one for you and your situation. So I currently have 2 camera bodies, the A6600, which is an APS-C camera, and then the A7 IV, which I'm shooting at right now, which is a full frame camera. But before I bought the Sony A7 IV, I had actually ordered and canceled the A7 IV 11 or 12 times. You see, because I wanted to push into real estate photography at the time, and so I needed an ultra wide lens, and I had 2 options to fulfill that need. The first was to upgrade to full frame and then just get a 16-35 full frame lens. And then the second one was just to get APS-C lens, which is going to be equivalent to that 16-35. And at the time I was slightly discouraged in getting another APS-C lens because I didn't want to add another APS-C lens to my collection if I was going to be upgrading to a full frame body anytime soon. So in my situation, both options would have worked perfectly fine, but I ended up going with the Sony A7 IV along with the, ironically enough, the Tamron 11-20mm, mainly so that I could use the actual lens on both bodies and get the same exact results. So honestly, ask yourself, what are your needs and does your current setup actually handle them? But this experience really left me wondering whether or not I just wasted $2,600, actually $2,700 on the Sony A7 IV. And on top of that, whether or not I could actually afford to spend that kind of money on a camera body when I wasn't making a ton of money through photography, videography, and freelancing as of yet. So right after I actually bought the body and I've been using it for some time, I read this quote from the Fast Lane Millionaire. And it goes, if you think you can afford it, you can't. And this idea blew my mind. It's this idea that if you have to really contemplate whether you should be buying something, you probably shouldn't be buying it. You should probably just hold off and stick to what you have and try to fine tune your skills, try to make more money, try to do something of that sort. So that is question number 2 that you have to ask yourself, can you truly afford it? The Fast Lane Millionaire taught me late to ask myself whether I should overspend on something just because of the thought that I might start a business or I might start making money from it. And I say might specifically because it's important that you know and you have a plan on whether or not your goal is to make money from what you're buying, or is it just going to be a hobby? Either is fine, of course, just know which one you're actually aiming to do, whether it's going to be for a business or for a hobby when it comes to buying the camera that you're looking to grab. The reality is that an APS-C body, especially modern APS-C bodies, will be plenty for 95+% of us. But of course, buying your camera, buying the right camera for you is only the first part in becoming a great filmmaker, creator, or for videographer, any of those things. And so if you truly want to level up your skills, the tips I share in this video right here are going to make you 9.3 times better creator overall.